This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Spouses Talking Houses with husband and wife real estate team Jennifer and Brian Frost. Everything you want to know about buying, selling, investing, and owning property. So let's get real about real estate.
Welcome back to Spouses Talking Houses. Today we're going to get real about paint colors. And we have just a wonderful guest today who is Jill Hosking-Cartland of Hosking Interiors. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Jen. Hi, Brian.
Thank you for joining us via Zoom. We're in May 2020. And we wanted to talk to Jill because she's helped us and helped a lot of our clients pick out the exact right colors. So first of all, Jill, tell us a little brief bio and something about your company.
Well, my company is Hosking Interiors, and I'm in Windham, New Hampshire. This is our 15th year in business, and I am a home stager, which is how we came to know each other, and as well as an interior decorator. And people always ask me, which one do you like better? I really like them equally. They have two totally different objectives, but they're both important. So I can't really choose. So in my work, I do a lot of color, not just speccing it for staging, but also for new builds and resale homes or homes where people just need to freshen it up. And I love it. Color, I just feel as though it never gets boring. There's never anything boring about it. Every house is a challenge to find the right combination for either a seller or a decorating client. So,
and I think you seem very scientific about it. You helped us choose the color for our main open area, the color behind us right now. And at the time, I think we had been thinking about color for a couple of months. We had different swatches up. Brian, myself, and Casey couldn't agree. Came in, and in about 15 minutes, boom, the right exact color. But you were using your light meter and told us exactly what to do. And I just love it. It completely changed this because this was a beige house before.
Yeah, I remember.
The color was bagel.
Bagel was the name of the paint color. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And you guys are not like anyone else. I tend to be called in to help. Color is a mystery to most people. They think they can go get these little tiny 2-inch swatches at the paint store, bring them home and figure it out. And that's not usually very helpful because they're just these little swatches. I mean, I don't know how people do it. I use a larger swatch of color, and it is scientific, and I'm not going to get scientific today. I'm going to put it in terms that, I understand and everyone can understand, but there's going to be there's a lot more to it than what I'll explain today, but I appreciate your saying that because it is a science, but it's also about your eye. What do you like? What goes with the finishes in your room? You can't ignore them. Your stain trim or the beautiful color of your mantle or what your flooring is. You cannot ignore those things when you're going to choose a color. You can't just say, I want a blue. Blue may not be right for the type of furniture you have, the flooring you have. So using a little bit of science truly helps.
Yeah. So last, I would say 20, 30 years, it's been all about the neutrals. And we went from the beige warm neutrals to the gray neutrals that seem like they could be a warm or a cool tone. So, what is a neutral?
So a neutral is basically the neutrals are white, black, brown, and gray. And technically they should go with all colors on the color wheel or in the color spectrum. And they generally have a very low saturation level of color. So they're not deep, dark colors. Gray, as you mentioned, that has actually been the trend since 2009.
Okay.
I knew it was
beige, as I like to call it.
It was beige before that. It was actually the brown family before that. It was the Tuscan trend before that.
Oh, really?
Yep. And I was actually surprised when I tried to think, oh, when did gray become that trend? And I was shocked to find it was 2009. So we're 11 years. Very interesting. People say now that gray is on its way out. I'm sure you've read that. I'm sure everyone's read that. And for the most part, that's true. I personally haven't seen that with my decorating clients. They're still asking for gray, but the difference is they're asking for a warmer gray versus those colder tones. So I use a lot of the new neutral, which is grayish, we can talk about, but
yes,
I use that almost exclusively in staging because it just is that bit more neutral so that any buyer would relate to it. But gray is still...
The grayish is a beigeish gray.
Yep. The grayish is, it's definitely predicted to be the big neutral. I think it will be. You'll see more and more and more of it this year, next year. But it's simply a mixture of gray and beige. And it can be either that brown beige undertone can either be warm or cool. It's very interesting.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's why you see so many different grayish. They're not just all light. They can go a little darker. But they will have some little bit of undertone to them that will separate them from will define whether or not they're warm or cool. Gray overload is definitely out. Everyone was doing gray everything in their room, gray couch, gray walls, gray pillows, gray throw. It was very monochromatic. That definitely is on its way out. That's gone. I don't see that or have a call for that anymore from pretty much anyone.
Completely opposite of the Pottery Barn trend that we had there for,
yes.
I don't know, 5 or 10 years.
I think more than 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, more than 10 years. And actually, I'm so glad because I love my decorating clients, but if one more asks me for page 53 out of the Pottery Barn catalog, I will lose my mind. Oh.
So when we first bought this house, the wall colors were mushroom, which I think is a beigey gray. And
it is.
A taupe. Yes,
Taupe.
There we go. A taupe. And then we, of course, went warmer because we were trying to go with the wood tones. And now I really like the gray because I think it's freshened up. We have so much wood in our in the hall. I think it's freshened that up. But a lot of times I think a person's feeling about whether a home is dated or not is based on that color palette.
I couldn't agree more. And that's why painting is one of the greatest tools in the seller's toolbox. It is achievable. It's not that expensive. It's something you can do yourself if you have to. So painting, doing a fresh coat of paint, nothing says our house is clean, we take care of it, we well maintain it, then taking care of the walls. I mean, you can see a nick in a wall or a nick in a piece of trim, that stands out. There's no way to hide that. You have to kind of fix that. And the same with people who aren't selling. They don't want to look at that either every day. So paint color is just an amazing tool.
So how do you go about deciding which type of undertones to use in a room?
It depends on what the finishes are. They drive everything. If you have granite that has an orange base or a yellow base to it, you have to, and then some light color inside that granite, you have to respect that you can't do a color that's going to fight with that or not complement it. That's a terrible mistake. You can't just say, I really want eggplant walls. you have to let your finishes help drive your choice.
So an eggplant would be that reddish purple color.
Yeah, that's not going to flatter the type of granite I have in my mind right now. I wish I had a picture of it, but you can't just go and say, I always wanted a room this color, so I'm going to do it. If you have finishes in that room that are going to look, that are not going to complement it and make the wall color look beautiful, which is what you're expecting and what you want, then you really, not good. You really have to look at the finishes, and that's flooring. There might be stonework on a fireplace, countertops, any finish that isn't going away and is going to stay there and you're not replacing it. You really need to pick a color that will complement it.
Yeah, certainly if you have wood, the warmer tones of wood. Yeah.
Yes. And I see a lot of the oak trim. I do so many resale homes. It's my specialty. And the oak trim especially, there are only certain colors that flatter it.
Because it has a lot of orange in it, right?
It does. And so blue, for example, is one wall color that beautifully flatters oak trim. But what doesn't flatter it are reds.
Oh, okay.
Reds don't tend to look particularly great with that old oak trim. A terracotta can go bad because you've got two oranges that are sort of not getting along with each other, next to each other.
Yep.
But green is a great choice for oak trim. The secret is you have to pick the right one with the right undertone, right? So you don't want to pick one that's going to look out of place with it. And the only way to know that is to put that paint card or a large color or paint literally up against the trim, a color that when you step back in the lighting that you have, you feel flatters the trim, because that's the whole point. It's not going to change. You're not going to paint it. If you're not going to paint it, that's what you need to do. Really test. Lighting, I just cannot say enough about lighting. Color is nothing without light. If you're lighting in your room, if you find a color you love and, technically it's supposed to go with my oak trim, and you paint a little out and you stand back and you look at it and you say, there's something wrong with that. It's probably your lighting that is reflecting on the color that isn't flattering. So you really have to be aware of what's the lighting. Is it going to stay the same, first of all, or am I going to add more? Am I going to change my bulb temperature? Because that will highly impact what color you choose. And it's why I ask people to please check the paint color over a period of hours. Yep. Morning, noon, dusk, and in only artificial light at night. It's the only way to feel confident about the color you're choosing.
I was so surprised and impressed and thrilled, I want to say. In our space, we've got the loft that's open and the lighting is a little bit different up there. And you had us just change the shade a little bit in that one area. And then when we remodeled our office, you helped us with the paint colors there. And you had originally chose one color. But then when we let you know the type of lighting that we were going to put in and we were going to change to, you immediately changed that shade.
Had to.
And I never would have thought of it.
Yeah. Color is nothing without light. It just isn't. It is part of the definition of what color is. It's a reflection of light. So it must be taken into consideration. And most people who don't have someone who's familiar with color theory don't understand that. It's a shame, because I hate the thought of thinking about all the gallons of paint that have been purchased over the years that just went into the trash bin or went to the, the paint graveyard because it was the wrong color because they just didn't go through sort of the steps.
So Brian has a confession.
Oops.
I'm one of those people who used to buy the Oops paint.
Oh yes.
Home Depot. Every one was a disaster.
Yeah.
And I forbid him. I was like, you cannot bring another can of paint into this house.
They're in the Oops bin for a reason, Brian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were a deal.
I found that out. Yeah.
They were a deal. And then we had, so you had like one whole wall of the garage, I think, that was full of old paint that we had to gradually get rid of.
Yeah, I used the cat litter and, absorbed all the paints and, did it the correct way and disposed of it correctly. Yeah. And, they were all water-based paints too, so that made it a lot.
Well, that's good. Sounds like a lot of cans.
Oh, yes.
A lot. Yeah, way too many.
Now I only have about 3 or 4.
Yeah. So he likes to use them all in the same room, but that's
another story.
That's for another day. Brian likes accent walls.
Oh dear.
So for color combinations, what's trending? What are we seeing?
So trendy combinations, they will come and go. And there are, of course, every year some predicted that are going to be popular that year. This year, believe it or not, I keep seeing cognac.
Oh, okay.
Cognac, like a cognac colored leather sofa. Think of a leather sofa that's got that caramel brown kind of tone. With white or blue. So that was one. Navy and mint was predicted this year to be a popular color combination. I still haven't seen it. Coral and blue was predicted to be popular. I've seen it, not a lot, but I've seen it. Like black and white, I always see it.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially in men's offices for some reason. And blue and peach, but I haven't seen that anywhere. I think that's just too much of a throwback in people's minds to the 80s. So I don't think that might be why I didn't see it. But it's interesting. There was a poll of 90,000 people, and they were asked, what is the most popular color combination that you would use? And the number one combination was blue, green, and pink.
Oh.
That was 9,500 people said that. The next one was orange, cream, and dark blue. And that didn't surprise me at all. That I've seen that many times. It's very popular even with my decorating clients. And then it goes on. Aqua and blues and yellows are always popular, always will be. That's a classic combination. Blue, green, and pink, shades of green, sort of a monochromatic scheme. But I just thought that holds more weight in my mind about what's popular because it's based on what people really want and really would do.
Yeah.
Trends are wonderful, and I watch them, of course. It's my job to do so. But I find trends are really great for just inspiration. Be inspired by what's trendy. If you want to be trendy, for goodness sake, buy a pillow and a throw in that color. Don't change everything in your family room based on a trend because you want it to look like a picture in a magazine that you saw last week. You will regret that, and it's expensive. So, I use them as inspiration, and I recommend to people that they do so, but don't change everything. And especially if you can't afford it, don't do that.
Yeah. So Casey just, she's home from college right now. And so she brought some stuff back from her dorm. So we used I put her throw pillows and her throw out on the couch. And I took my stuff and just put it in one of those vacuum seal bags and put it away. So it just completely freshened up the living room and it cost absolutely nothing. I'm also really on board. It sounded like there was a lot of popularity of the blues, and I've been thinking about a blue for our kitchen. We were going to have you over pre-COVID, but we have a lot of brown in our kitchen right now.
But blue and brown is a very classic combination. we can pull that off. We just have to make sure that whatever brown we pick has an undertone that complements the La Paloma gray of your family room and your open concept.
Right.
That's all.
What colors go best with clear maple cabinets?
Yeah, asking for a friend.
Well, I could spit out a lot of colors that won't be helpful to you because I can't see your lighting.
Right.
All about your lighting.
Okay.
Well, we made a pact that we won't buy any paint without you. So
okay, well, I think that is an excellent pact. Please let me.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What about exterior color trends?
Exterior color trends. Biggest exterior trend has been that charcoal house. Have you seen a million of them?
Yeah.
I have too. I feel like I feel like I can't even drive into a neighborhood without seeing a charcoal house or with a beautiful blue undertone to it. Very, very popular, remains popular, very popular with builders. So I would say that's the one I personally see the most of, and that people request when I do exterior consults, that they go, we really want a gray house and I don't want it to be wimpy. And so as they describe, I pull collars and say, okay. But in terms of exterior color, there are some things you really have to think about that make a difference. Sort of like interior, you have to pay attention to the finishes and what's going to complement them. On the exterior color choice, you need to look at your hardscape. What color is it?
Yeah.
Your roof color?
Yeah.
The style of your house.
Walkway.
Yep, absolutely. What's the walkway? Even right down to what is your landscaping like for most of the year? What color is the landscaping? The style of your house and the existing hardscape around it is probably one of the most critical things you really need to consider.
Do you also look at the surrounding houses?
Yes, what's going on in the neighborhood, very important. No one wants to be same old, at least that from the people I work with. They don't want the same as the neighbor, but they don't want to stick out. Or I have a client occasionally who says, I want to stick out. I want to stick out.
I feel like the trend, just like with the interior colors, has been to be towards an even more neutral palette on the exterior colors for quite a while. There's a lot of white. There's a lot of very pale yellow.
Yes.
There's a lot of pale gray, pale blue.
Those are the exact colors that are right after that dark charcoal color. I mean, down to the number you just said. Taupe, you missed taupe. Taupe is.
We have a medium blue on ours.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. And what about shutters? Do you see people really using shutters as much anymore?
Not so much anymore. It's interesting, if they have shutters when I arrive, they always say, should I take the shutters off? And I say, oh, well, and why would you like to take your shutters off? I don't know, I'm bored, or I feel like it looks dated, or whatever their reason is. And I just find it interesting that they're supposed to be sort of like eyelashes for your windows, right? But people, I think, generally just look at it as more maintenance and less as an opportunity to add more color, right? Because most homes have a 3-color scheme: the body, the trim, and an accent color. So I find it interesting that they would give up that color, and it really depends on the house. What I recommend or suggest depends on the style of the house. Yeah. And how many different sizes of windows are we talking about? And do some already have some and some don't? So lots of things to think about.
If it's a very traditional house and they've got, some molding over the windows and that type of thing, I think the shutters need to stay. But in other cases, particularly if they've gone to a bright white window and a bright white trim, then that's enough of a contrast that I don't think you necessarily need the shutters, and it has a fresh modern look.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. White houses I think we'll see more and more of those because charcoal will fade with a little bit of popularity, but I think not for a couple of years, but white, I see is a lot of white too, and a lot of taupe in new construction.
Yes.
Lots
for
of
the
taupe
trim, you mean?
vinyl. Yeah.
Yeah. Before, I want to talk a little bit more about that accent color and front door colors, but before we do, just want to ask Brian to give us a quick insight into the market, sponsored by Real Value Appraisal.
Sure. Well, we're in May 2020, and a lot of people are asking how COVID is affecting the market. And I'm obviously dealing that with my appraisal work also, trying to cover all my bases. But the facts are that we just don't have enough data right now to determine what effect COVID-19 has had on the housing market. I can tell you that listings are generally down about 50% in our area over last year.
And last year was slim inventory anyway.
Yeah. Before even COVID-19 hit, we already had an extremely low inventory. So that's all only added to it. There's still demand. Houses are being shown. Houses are going under contract every day. So we won't. Long story short, we won't know for a month or two what the actual effect is on the numbers.
Yeah. But there's so much negative news about the economy. There's so much concern about the economy that it's affecting consumer confidence. And therefore, people are saying, is the real estate market going down? Is it going to crash, et cetera? And that's in conflict with the fact that there's less houses on the market. So in order for prices to go down, you usually need to have an oversupply of houses. So I think we've got two competing attitudes here.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. So we'll see how it shakes out, and it depends on, of course, how short term versus long term this whole thing is. We've been busy. I keep thinking that we're not going to be busy, and it's certainly not a normal spring market, but we've certainly had plenty of activity, and we've been talking more with builders this spring than ever, working more with land and builders, because regardless of what's happening, if they don't have land and they don't have buildings that they're putting up, they're out of business. So they're taking this time to create more inventory. That's what I'm seeing. Jill, have you been busy with staging?
Yes. Yes.
Were you expecting it to slow down because of this?
I was expecting that, and it has a little, but now I'm doing all of my consultations via FaceTime, Zoom, and it starts with I have them send me pictures of every room, 2 pictures per room, and then I ask them to walk around on their first floor, walking from the foyer through the entire first floor, telling me what the name of the room is and what its function is for them. And then they send me videos by floor, and then I put together a report for them by room, what they should be working on while they're home, because they're obviously not ready to list yet. Some people are comfortable and have no problem doing that in 2 weeks while we're still in the midst of this. And others are, I just want to be prepared for whatever, June or whatever their time frame is. So that has been working really well. It's strange not to be with my client.
Yeah.
I miss it terribly, but I, need to do what's morally the right and ethically the right thing to do right now. So it's been working. It's different. I'd rather it go back to the way it was.
Yeah. And I know you like to check the light.
I do.
You like to physically pick stuff up and move it and say, hey, wouldn't this look nice here? And
I do. It's been a little bit of a struggle. And picking paint colors remotely, I know some people do it. I'm terribly struggling with that. It's been rough.
Well, as you said, the light is so important. It must be difficult to really get a feel for the actual lighting virtually.
It completely is, as well as the perspective, how big things are. I don't know,
Oh, right.
when I've done remote stagings, literally where the poor realtor has been my hands and
move this here, put that there.
Yes. And it's very tedious for them. And it's very tedious for me. I'd rather just get out of the way. Let me I know how this room has to look. But we've persevered. We're working through it. I have 6 homes in process now, and I've done.
That's great.
Yeah, and I've done 11 so far that were up. So, usually I do a few more, but I think we just have to respect sellers just feel uncomfortable right now, and we just have to respect that about them and do it when they're ready.
Yeah, we've been fortunate to be working with some vacant homes, and so even though we've been taking protocols and doing disinfections and such, having the sellers go and do disinfections and such before and after closings, before and after showings, I should say. But the point is I just feel much better that I'm not having a lot of groups of people go through homes that are occupied. Yeah. And we will face that soon, I'm sure. But we've just been lucky in the last month that we've been working on some vacant homes and some new homes.
It's quite a protocol to show a home now. Yeah. The protocol the realtors are using is just beyond, and good for them as well. They should.
But I think the remote staging is great, and it probably is saving you on gas.
Oh, completely. I didn't fill that Jeep up for 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, that's
and it was half empty
to us.
Started.
So front door color, I feel like, is often a very hard decision because, again, you want to stand out, but you don't want to clash, and it's very public.
Very public.
You can use red on any color.
Ours is black. Ours is black.
Mine is pale navy.
Ooh.
Which is a very deep, dark navy color.
Okay.
And it's a medium blue. It's called Cape Cod blue or Cape Cod blue. It's a stain.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, but it was white for a million years because I couldn't decide. Isn't it?
So you're no help, are you?
Oh, no. I can do it for everybody. And as you said, in 15 minutes, I can get you the right color for you. Right. We decorators, not so much.
Exactly. Yeah.
We call each other in on these kinds of issues. It's so weird.
I've seen some wonderful red doors. I've seen some wonderful fuchsia doors.
Yes. Yellow. I've seen
yellow.
Some yellows with some blue homes and some charcoal homes. It just has to be the right intensity. If you have a really cool color with a really warm house, you better pick the right one so that they just complement each other beautifully. It's tricky, but it can be done with big swatches.
So intensity means how light or dark that it is, light, medium, or dark?
Yeah, it's kind of like, think of it in terms of clean color and dirty color.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you don't want a really muted, so if you've got a very deep saturated charcoal house, you don't want a yellow that sort of blinds you. You want something that's a little bit more muted, but still is definitely yellow. Okay. I don't know how to explain that very well, but I don't really know how to.
So you're using more of a satin finish than a gloss on a front door, or that depends also?
Yeah, finishes, the sheen you use definitely affects your color, right? Yes. So thanks for pointing that out, Brian.
Oh, yeah.
The higher the sheen or the higher the gloss, the more light it reflects.
All right.
So, but you need a high sheen on things like front doors, right? Okay. Because of the exposure to the weather. Same with kitchen backsplash. If you don't have a tile splash and you just have paint backsplash, that better be a pretty high level sheen because it's not going to be washable if it isn't, or very durable. For sheen inside, most people use eggshell for the family room, the bedroom, and whatnot. I like to use a sheen called satin, which is sort of between eggshell and the higher gloss, the semi-gloss. It's kind of in between, still washable, but not as much light reflection as semi-gloss or that high gloss.
So while we're talking about front doors, this is making me think about trim again. So white, both interior and exterior, is extremely popular right now. But for exterior, I've been thinking about, more of a, so it used to be oak or antique white were sort of your two most popular, and that's a little dated now. But I've been thinking about grays or other colors for trim. Are you seeing any trends there, or is it just white, white, white?
For exterior, it's pretty much white or some creamy version of white. Maybe it's not a contemporary bright white, because that wouldn't really look fabulous on a colonial house.
Right, especially if it had some brick, you wouldn't want a bright white.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So paying attention to your finishes, right, in the hardscape and what that house is comprised of. I see more creamy white exterior trim than I do bright white anymore. But if it's a contemporary house, that bright white might be appropriate. We certainly use bright white on the interior of a contemporary house. So outside, appropriate. Creamy white, colored trim, I don't see it a lot. I see it a lot on historic homes.
Of course, yeah.
Or very, very old colonial homes. And it's beautiful if it's used in conjunction with a beautiful body color. That again, they have to complement each other. So that really should drive what that exterior trim color is. Interior, it's still white, white, white. People want white, white, white.
The only problem is if you paint stain trim white, you can't go back.
Well, you can, but it's not worth the effort. Yeah,
you'd rip the trim off if you wanted to go back. I mean, you'd have to replace it all. That wouldn't be worth the effort.
So I've definitely seen some antiques that have some lovely yellow or sagey green trims. Yeah, there's a lot more personality of color in some of those older houses than there are in our modern homes.
There's a lot more of everything in those antique homes.
Yeah,
the architecture is just amazing. For someone like me, who I love design, and I love color, being able to go through one of those homes is just like, we might as well. It's like Disney World to me. It's wonderful.
Sorry. You've answered this question diplomatically for us several times, but now we have an audience, so they may benefit from your true opinion. Do you think that trim throughout a house should be consistent?
So my answer to that, my diplomatic answer to that, is if you are concerned about walking through your home and feeling like you have great flow and consistency, and it's a nice gentle movement throughout the rooms of your home, if that's important to you, then you want your trim to all be the same color.
Oh yeah.
Personally, I prefer chaos.
Oh, I see. Well then, there's always an exception.
For this whole accent wall thing, yeah.
Oh, the accent wall.
Yeah, so that's probably why. Anyway, we won't mention how many different types of trim we have, because we've been trying to decide which one to make the dominant trim. So anyway, your time we're just so thankful for your time. I'm wondering if you have any tips for people as to how to tell what is a quality paint job, or how to make sure that you are putting on a quality paint job.
Yes, I have some very simple tips. First of all, a good quality paint job lasts about 5 to 7 years. And a good job has very even coverage, no drips that you leave on the wall. Mm-hmm. You don't leave paint on the trim to the point where you can't get it off, because then you'd have to repaint your trim. The coverage is very consistent. And that you've filled all the nail holes or any imperfections in the walls, that you've taken care of that, and you don't see that after you apply the next the new coats of paint.
Mhm.
One tip I will say is don't water down your paint.
Oh.
All you're doing is you're watering down the coverage that you're going to get, and the durability, and the washability.
I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing, Brian. I don't want to know if you do it.
No, I didn't know it was a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, a lot of people do it. They just figure they'll make the paint last, go longer.
More coverage.
No. And then paint manufacturers that, everybody has their favorite, I think, at this point, if they've done any level of painting in their adult lives. I'll say what mine is.
Okay, I'll do the same.
So in my home, I've used Ben Moore Regal Select.
Okay.
It is a wonderful. The coverage is great. The washability is great. If you buy it in a satin sheen or above, it really. I've tried them all, as you can imagine. Every paint manufacturer that I don't know, maybe 5 by now. I haven't tried the European paints, but buy the best paint you can afford.
I totally agree. I'm a paint snob. I want Benjamin Moore or Sherwin-Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And usually I ask the person at the counter, and the 2 places that I go for paint, they're extremely knowledgeable people who've been there for a long time. And I usually will pay for that extra, durability and finish. And also, when you buy the cheaper paint, you have to use more of it.
That's right.
So as expensive as good paint is, it's one of the cheapest things you can do in your house.
Right.
And to spend, 20 or 30% more, I think is just so worth it.
I couldn't agree more. And Sherwin, I don't want to knock them out. I use it all the time. Clients have preferences for Sherwin. Their duration formula is excellent coverage. And I work with painters who only want to work with Sherwin, and I work with painters who only want to work with Ben. I guess it's what you're familiar with, and but that lays on.
Those are the big 2.
I'm sorry?
Big 2 quality companies.
Yes, they are the 2 highest quality companies. I don't want to slight Behr or Dunn Edwards. I really don't. But my first experiences with those were not. Maybe it was me, maybe it was the painter, and it didn't go well. But I've narrowed it down in my life to Ben and Sherwin.
Yeah, it took me a long time to realize that Behr paint really wasn't that good.
Yeah, poor Brian. I nagged him for years about it because it is expensive to go buy the expensive paint.
It is.
There's no question about that, and particularly since we would not be choosing the right colors, we would be buying multiple cans. So having an expert help you choose the color will save you money in the long run too.
Agreed.
Yeah. So excellent. Any other tips that you want to give us?
Just for picking the right color, maybe. Most people struggle with how do I pick the right color? And the first thing is just, again, I'm a broken record. Pay attention to the finishes. They will draw your finishes. They will help drive what will best flatter your wall color that you choose and the room overall. Pick a color that suits the function of the room. For example, if you want serenity and a little bit of calm, you might want to choose a blue or a green. If it's a bedroom, say. Or if it's a kitchen, a lot of people want to feel invigorated and sunny, and you might want to pick a yellow if it goes with your cabinetry and your countertop and your flooring. But pick a color that is suitable for the room and what you're doing there, what the function is. Think about whether or not you like high contrast or whether you want gentle flow. That will help drive you to certain paint strips on the fan deck. To achieve good flow, just a couple tips. If you want nice flow from one room to the other, you want to pick up a paint strip I don't know. We'll pick one you can see. You want to stay on the paint card. So if you want beautiful flow from one room to the other that's gentle but is a different color, use one paint strip.
Okay.
So you might have down in the darker area, you might say, oh, I want, we watch a lot of TV and a lot of movies in there. You might want to do it in a darker tone. But then you might want to, in your foyer, use a lighter version of it in the transition spaces. And then maybe in your kitchen, you go one darker. So the color will change as you walk through the first level of the house, say, but it will all work together. It's just going to be very gentle, and people won't even know why it feels so good when they walk through it. That's why, because you stayed within the same hue family.
Excellent.
That's a great tip.
That's a great tip, yeah.
The other one is you can totally do different colors in different rooms, but you want to think about staying at the same level. Pick colors, for example, that are at the third level on the total strip.
Yeah.
Third level, go to another paint color family that will look great in whatever, the family room, and pick the third level of that.
Okay, so they're the same saturation or intensity, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But you get different hues, different colors, but they're all at that same level. Works like a charm. People don't even know why it works so well. It's because you're picking that same level of.
That's interesting. Okay.
You just have to pick the right color families to go together.
Right. Yeah. I'm no longer going to DIY any color choices, but
I support that.
I think you're worth your weight in gold, Jill. And we really appreciate you coming on with us today and joining us for Spouses Talking Houses to get real about color. And also, we want to let anybody who's watching or listening know that we can help you prep your home for sale. Jill is one of the professionals that we use. We also use professional photographers. So we are going to make your house just look great online and in person. If you like our podcast and you listen to our podcast, we appreciate it. And we just hope that you will like, subscribe, share, and leave a, what do they call that? Feedback, a review. Leave a review. So.
Positive only.
Yeah. Well, we'll listen to your feedback, but we like 5 stars, frankly. Who doesn't? So thank you so much, and we'll see you again on Spouses Talking Houses.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Brian.
Music courtesy of the Eric Lindbergh Trio. Please visit his website at www.ericlindberghworld.com. Jennifer and Brian are licensed to practice real estate in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Brian is also a certified general appraiser in New Hampshire. They are not lawyers, accountants, home inspectors, or therapists. Real estate customs and rules may be different in your area. Each Keller Williams Realty office is independently owned and operated. The Realtor name is trademarked to members of the National Association of Realtors. If you are currently under contract with a real estate agent, this is not intended as a solicitation. Views expressed on this podcast by Jennifer may not be shared by Brian and vice versa, nor are they necessarily the views of Keller Williams Realty.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.